Spurs win by 1-0. Is the shot on goal the shot that scored? Does that count? If it is an own goal, Steve.
Well, that's debatable. There should be an asterisk above that because that could be the own goal, as you said.
United had plenty of chances but couldn't get across the line. Take a look at Spurs in recent finals, of course. Lost against City back in the League Cup in 2021. Lost against Liverpool. The game you're out, Stevie, of course, in Spain. Lost against Chelsea as well, Manchester United. And you have to go back to 2008 for the last time they won a trophy, and that was, of course, the League Cup. Right then, for more on this, we welcome in Frank Leboeuf. We'll hear from Frank in a moment.
Well, he delivered his second season.
He did. He promised he was going to do it, and that's exactly what he has done.
Let's be honest, congratulations, Tottenham. Probably were not the better side on the night in terms of creating chances. You saw the graphic there. But gritted it out in the end, and he made some defensive changes, bringing on Danso for taking off one of the Brennan Johnson. So he went to a 5 at the back, something we've sort of criticised him for, but he realised that it was... And actually, they set their stall out pretty early in the second half.
Very early.
Which I thought was a little worrying. Mm-hmm. They had one chance, remember when Udogie went through and he tried to play it to Solanke. Solanke had a bad touch. It's really the only time they threatened. They really didn't threaten in the second half, and they basically set their stall out and said, we're going to play a defensive camped-in set-up and you break us down. Now, that's a little bit dangerous, but United's finishing has been poor. They have nobody with real quality up front. We saw that finish from Bruno Fernandes. So congratulations to Tottenham. I mean, Man United can't win anything, can they? They just... You could sit with them and play any sport, it wouldn't matter. They just can't win anything at the moment. And if we're being honest about it, the standard of the game itself for a European final was a shocker. The actual standard, there was some end-to-end stuff, there was a good atmosphere, but the standard of the passing, the standard of the ability for players to put their foot on the ball, Stevie, it was an absolute shocker in terms of a spectacle.
And that's why sometimes we did get kind of end-to-end, because nobody could keep it. Nobody could actually control it long enough to actually control any part of the play. I think maybe Spurs in the first half had a 5-minute spell where they kind of pushed United back, but other than that, too many mistakes. Let's be honest, no real chances either. I mean, Man United, there wasn't a chance where we were saying they should have scored. I mean,
we were expecting it at some stage later on. Harry Maguire obviously going up front, given what's happened in this
and you should.
Before, but nothing
listen, you're 1-0 down in a European Cup final. You should be taking chances, putting balls in the box, and just generally throwing the kitchen sink at it. But there was no real quality with anything they did, which is why either Tottenham got a body in the way, or the ball was off target.
When I was looking at Tottenham at the start of the game, I know Heung-min Son has had a poor season or two, but you thought, really, Richarlison on the left side ahead of the club captain, a guy who's been a stalwart for you, and then Heung-min Son comes on in the second half and you see, I can see that now. Because he looks as if he's...
Slow motion.
He looks as if he's gone a little bit, so the manager realised that. They at least had some discipline in the middle of the park, because in previous games, Bissouma and Sarr have sort of lost the plot. They didn't have a lot of threat up front. They defended well when they had to. Keeper made some good saves. Looked a little dicey at times, but they got the job done. But part of the reason they got the job done is because they've got nothing up front, United. You know, Rasmus Højlund is workmanlike. He runs about. He's physical, but it's long past the day where he's been good enough to play for Manchester United. That being said, though, he's not alone.
No,
there's a bunch of players in this United side that now they're not making the Champions League. They're 16th in the Premier League, so they're not getting a lot of cash from the Premier League. They're getting nothing from European football. What are they going to do? How many tea ladies are they going to sack? How many groundsmen are they going to usher out to try and save a few quid here and there to be able to spend money? I mean, it was embarrassing what Ineos were doing last year, and it's only going to get worse. And now they have a bunch of players who can't win anything. They're just not good enough. Maybe Bruno Fernandes on a better team. But the bulk of them just not good enough on massive wages, and they are absolutely stuck with him. Ruben Amorim, if he stays, by the way, and that's a big if he stays, is absolutely stuck. When he talks about, you know, my project, my plan, making players fit the system. How are you going to get these players out to get these other players in?
I want to talk about Manchester United a little bit later on. I just want to focus on Spurs for the moment. I think, have we fixed Frank's technical issues? Frank, overall, obviously, you can argue that they weren't the best team on the night, but in the end, they get the trophy. As a player, as much as we can poo-poo the quality of this final and indeed this competition overall, how much do you listen to that noise, or how much do you just really enjoy tonight if you're a Spurs player?
You don't care. You don't care because the most important thing is to win. And I always say that. There is I would say, a minimum level, and we couldn't find it today. But we are in a neutral point of view, not in the squad, not under pressure, and the players, the Spurs, I mean, they're so happy. They don't care the way they play. I think they were resilient. They worked hard defensively, especially the second half, and it was a good change from Postecoglou to put Danso at the back to help the players. And I have to say that the four at the back did done the job with Vicario. And when Vicario made a mistake, Van de Ven made what it was a dream for me to do one day, maybe in a final, make that kind of save. That's unbelievable. I mean, that will be seen forever. And Van de Ven, I've shown today that he was a great defender. But again, yeah, it doesn't really matter the way you played. I played a European Cup final, Cup Winners' Cup with Chelsea, and we played against Stuttgart. I can tell you that wasn't the best final ever, for sure, from far. But I don't even remember how bad or how good we played. I only remember that Zola scored and we won, and we went back home with a cup. That's the only thing matters.
Yeah, the players won't care. I'm talking from a neutral point of view and from a spectacle.
Yes.
But then again, maybe that was asking a bit much, because we've watched a lot of these teams this year, and the fact that they're in the final is a head scratcher in the first place, and I think it tells you a lot about the standard of the rest of this Europa League competition. But they made it on merit. But I was just hoping it was going to be a little bit better in terms of quality than it was. But if you're a Tottenham fan or a Tottenham player, you absolutely don't care. No. You just wanted to defend that lead at the end. They were throwing their bodies in the way, which you would expect. They got to the end line and that's all they had to do, and fair play to them for that.
I'm sorry, we're not sentimental. Spurs have just won, but I'm going to ask the question. Is it enough to keep him in the job?
I actually don't think it is. I'm being honest, because we've sat here and talked about Erik ten Hag winning Carabao Cups and FA Cups, and looking at the league form, which, by the way, was better than Tottenham. It wasn't great, but it was better than Tottenham, their position. And he's had a similar amount of time as Erik ten Hag had at the time when we were discussing this. The question here is, this is a great night for Tottenham. It's a great night for Postecoglou and the club and the supporters, and they will enjoy it. But they're in the Champions League next year, and not to be embarrassed, you're going to have to go and spend a couple of $100 million minimum. Does Daniel Levy believe that if there's $200 million plus to spend on this squad, that he can give that to Postecoglou, bearing in mind where they finished 17th in the league, bearing in mind their form, bearing in mind their scattergun approach to a lot of these games? I think there's a big question in the coming days and weeks whether Daniel Levy will just pull the plug. He's fired Conte, he's fired Mourinho, he's fired some bigger hitters than Ange Postecoglou. But this is a big call, because it's a big night for the football club. It's a big night for these players and these supporters. But is that enough to not look forward and say, right, great, but what do we do in the next couple of years?
Go on, Frank.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, because while Craig was talking, and I 100% agree with him, I think Postecoglou shouldn't stay. It's sad, he won something, but he proved for the past 2 years that he was incapable of making that team better. When you look at the collective squad, they're nowhere near it. They don't know how to play together. They don't defend well. They don't even attack well. If you take the individuals, you have great players. I mean, you cannot say that the 11 players played today, they have qualities. And if you manage to do something good with them, I'm pretty sure you can have something more than decent. So it's up to the coach to do that. I want to believe that there is a future with that squad, with some players adding, like Craig said, like 2-3 other players, there is something you can do with them. I mean, you see at the back, there is not much to, except maybe Vicario, not much to move. In the middle of the park, the players, they work hard, and today they've been good enough to compete with Manchester United. But overall, yeah, the season showed the reality of that squad. They weren't good enough. Who is responsible for that? I guess 50-50. The player didn't do enough, but Postecoglou has to be responsible in a certain way, in a certain amount for the bad season they had.
Would he walk away? In terms of going to Daniel Levy and saying, listen,
No chance.
you may be going to sack me, I don't know. I could go out on a high here.
Would you walk away?
What
would you do if you're Postecoglou?
I'm walking away in a million years.
No, because
Why
you
would he walk away?
believe that you've got it.
Well, what I'm saying is, if he thinks that he's going to get the
Jumping
sack,
before you push.
and I know this sounds really crazy because they've just won the Europa League, but you cannot finish 17th. You cannot put a performance in that is just a tad better than Ipswich and Leicester and survive. So are we saying if United had scored 2 late goals and Anana had come up and scored the winner in the 97th minute, he would definitely have been sacked, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So what's the difference? I mean, the difference is you've sort of crawled over the line in the Europa League.
It's the similarities with Ten Hag beating a hungover City in the FA Cup final.
It would be double standards for me to sit here and not give him the same appraisal that we gave the Manchester United manager. And that's unfortunate but that's where we are. Now, the point I'm making is, if they're trying to save face here, he doesn't want to sack him to look bad to the fans because they've just won. He doesn't want to get the sack. Maybe they could sort of meet in the middle with some sort of, and I'm only surmising here, with some sort of financial settlement where he says, no, I've done my bit here at Tottenham, thanks very much. A couple of million in the bank from Daniel Levy. Not the full whack, but a few million here, and I'll walk away into the sunshine.
Why would Postecoglou do that? Why would he do that? Postecoglou is in a position now where he will get a decent job. If they let him go, which I'm in agreement. If you look at the big picture, 17th isn't acceptable. Completely unacceptable.
When you mean a decent job, who else in the Premier League are taking the guy that's just finished 17th?
I'm just saying, if you're Postecoglou, there's no reason for you to walk away. It's like, I've just won Tottenham a European trophy, the first trophy of any sort in 17 years. Do you know what? If you don't want me, pay me.
Right.
Why is he going to go, well, let's come to an agreement? Not a chance, there's not a hope he's going to do that. And again, just bare facts. Again, I agree with you. If he loses this game, there is absolutely no question he's out the door. But he didn't lose the game. And they're now in the Champions League. And you know that up the stair are going, oh, wait a minute, we just want European. They're thinking about it. And the fact that they're thinking about it means there's a possibility that they don't let him go.
Meanwhile, we've got to talk about Manchester United. This is surely yet another new low in a sense that everything was hung on tonight. It was about, right, OK, maybe this could be the turning point
Which is equally as wrong as the Tottenham scenario.
Yeah, but I suppose the argument is Ruben Amorim hasn't had the same amount of time that the likes of Ten Hag and indeed Postecoglou have had. So the question is...
No, but they've spent a lot more money and the results have been appalling.
Have you seen enough from Amorim to suggest that he has what it takes to turn this team around?
No, absolutely not.
So what do you do if you're Manchester?
What have we seen?
So what have we seen?
We've seen a manager that's...
Do you sack another manager now to bring in another one?
They can't afford to sack him. That's the only reason he'll stay. Otherwise, he should be out the door.
And that's their problem, because they've caused this problem.
Yes.
Because they hung on to Eric Ten Hag.
Too long.
Too long. And then they left him with less time to work. Now they would lose even more face firing Ruben Amorim, which I don't think they'll do. But what gets me with him is he's so steadfast in this system. As if like three or four players is going to make it into Inter Milan, who play this system. I'm fed up talking about this system, to be honest with you. It's about players.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? It's about players. 3 at the back, 4 at the back.
Yeah. So if it's about players, has he just been given a terrible hand?
He's not been given a very good hand, but he has played his hand terribly. Right? He has not adjusted. He has really not made any of them better. You know, apart from chucking Harry Maguire up front at the end of games. Who really has got better? I mean, they've been okay, some of the performances.
They haven't, Craig.
No, I mean, from a player's perspective, some of the players, he's not like taking any players to the next level. You went, oh, he was really poor when Ten Hag. Now look at how this guy's playing. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has been their standout player, but a standout player from what position? It has been mediocre all the way through, and he's quite frankly looked like a guy who just doesn't have the answer. His only answer is, this is my system. And it's almost like, if you give me a year, 2 years, 5 years, maybe I'll have the players to get it right. He's just not adjusted. But they won't sack him. Mark my words, they won't sack him, because I don't think they get the money to sack him. And it would just tell you that all these people that they've brought in to make decisions under some Jim Ratcliffe and the guy that was the Olympic bike coach, who I don't know what even knows a football's round, Sir Dave Brailsford, they would just be making themselves look foolish for some of these decisions.
They were mediocre when he came in.
Yeah.
And they're worse now.
I know.
Yeah.
So there is not a single thing that you can turn around and say that Amorim has done to make this team better. All he's done is make it worse.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince us with his talk about, well, you can see this is what we're trying to do. I can't see. I don't know about you two. Are you, Frank? I can't see anything. I don't know what they're trying to do. Absolutely no idea. And this, he keeps falling on this, well, we didn't get time on the training field.
You've had time now.
He's had... Listen, players don't need to be on a training field day in, day out for 6 months to figure out what they've got to do. It's tweaks. When you get to the standard of the Premier League and the European tournaments, it's about tweaking people's positioning or tweaking little decisions that you need to make in certain situations. This isn't a under 10s where you've got to start from scratch. So all his talk is, it's really not getting them anywhere. It's making them look a little unaware of actually his surroundings.
We've just talked about Postecoglou in the same vein about, two managers in the European final. We're talking about them keeping their job. But at least Postecoglou, right, although they have gone downhill fast, at least for 6 months when he came in, we're talking about making a difference.
Yes, yeah.
For 6 months when he came in, he took this team that was just unwatchable into a team that was top of the league. They were, for at least 5 or 6 months, played some of the best football they'd seen at Tottenham for years, some of the most entertaining football in the Premier League. So he did make a difference. And then it fell away for whatever reason, him or the injuries or a bit of everything. But as Stevie said, Amorim has come in and has literally made no difference. None. At least Postecoglou come in and people went like that for 6 months.
Yes.
Holy smokes, this could be brilliant.
Yeah.
And then it faltered. Amorim's come in and it's been one flat line of just bang average performances. And that, if you're a United fan. And by the way, they are in the table. Both these teams are in the Premier League table where they deserve to be.
Frank?
Yeah, I want to think about Amorim and the fact that he was the head coach of a team who just won the league in Portugal. Of course, we're not going to compare the Premier League with the Portuguese league, but this team, the Sporting Portugal, they're absolutely fantastic. And in Europe, when even Benfica or Porto plays, they're very, very good teams. So if he was capable of doing that with Sporting Portugal, I think when he came to Manchester United, he thought he could do the same. But I think he realized the player he had in charge only when he came and he arrived, and it was impossible to find a link between each other, that they weren't ready to play and they couldn't understand each other. And that maybe it's why he said, oh, we need more time. Well, it's impossible to work like that. I will have to change everything. This is what he said at a certain point when he realized that it was impossible to work with that squad. And is he responsible for that? I think he's responsible for having said yes to the board to take charge of that squad. But when he started to work with them, he finally realized that it was impossible, like any others, to work. That's the biggest problem that Manchester United will face. That it's impossible to change quickly that squad and to make it a better team. They will have to go step by step, getting rid of some of them if they can, and buy some others. So it will take time. So Amorim shouldn't be sacked for me, but is he responsible for making the team worse? I'm not sure about that. I think the players, they're fully responsible for their acts.
But let's look at it this way. If only one of the teams in the bottom three, and I know it hasn't happened, if only one of the teams in the bottom three had put up a fight this year, right? Either of these two teams in the final tonight could easily have been in the bottom three and been relegated.
Yep.
It would only have taken one of the teams, which we didn't get. But sometimes you have a team comes up and they put up a spirited fight, they can end up 14th, 15th, maybe mid-table. If that had happened, Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United could have been playing the Championship next season. That's the only reason they are still in the division, is that the bottom three were cast adrift. Had one of them been anywhere decent, because we know Wolves picked up, we know the others generally, West Ham didn't really, but Wolves picked up from a bad position. But if one of them had stepped out just after Christmas and put in a performance to the end of the season, one of these two teams would have been relegated.
But don't you think that they would both have changed slightly? You've got to think that if either of the two of them fell, the way they've gone about... Well, you've got Amorim who says... You've got Manchester United and Amorim saying, this is how the team's going to play, right? He's also saying that I've not had any time on the training field. So if you haven't got any time on the training field to really get your team to where you want it, then you have to try and get some results. Well, and then at the end of the season, you can start again. Yeah. Now, they never did that. Now, was that because they knew they were never going to get relegated and he decided...
What an embarrassing conversation to have.
Well, it is. I mean, it really is.
The old adage when you were fighting at the bottom used to be you had to get to 40 points, which hasn't always been the case in latter years, but it used to be in the day if you got to 40, you were kind of safe. They're on 38 and 39.
Yes.
Kind of tells you all about it. Now, this is all sort of hypothetical stuff because they did not get relegated. But the point is, in some of the other seasons, had they performed like this, they would have been damn close.
Good news, though, is there'll be plenty of time for Amorim to work with his squad on the training ground because they got no European distractions next season. Yeah. They, of course, have not qualified for any of the 100 European competitions. Meanwhile, for Spurs, they are in the Champions League. And how they love playing Manchester United this season. Just to confirm, they played them 4 times. They've won every single match against United. They did so, of course, today in the Premier League. They've done a double over them. And, of course, in that epic quarter-final as well in the League Cup. Manchester City looking good, aren't they, for a place in the Champions League after that 3-1 victory over Bournemouth. Taking a look at those who weren't in the squad, and it's interesting, Pep Guardiola was talking about the size of the squad going into the start of next season. Here's what he had to say.
A lot of people are talking about the transfers that might come in this summer, but do you actually need a smaller squad now?
No, I don't want that. I said to the club, I don't want that.
You want smaller?
And I don't want to give 5-6 players in the tribune. I don't want that. I will quit. If don't make it shorter a squad, I will not stay. It's impossible. It's impossible for my soul to give the players in the tribune where they cannot play. Now it happened because we add for players, and immediately it was maybe 3 or 4 months we could not select 11 players. We don't have defenders. It was so difficult. And after, the people come back, but next season cannot be like that. I cannot, as a manager, I cannot be training 24 players and every time we're selecting, I have to be 4, 5, 6 players stay in Manchester at home because cannot be go to play. This is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. I said to the club, so I don't want that.
Jeff? Hi, Pep. Does that mean that there will be sort of exits this summer?
No, I don't know. I should stay, but it's a question of the club. So, but I don't want to have 24, 25, 26 players and when everybody is fit. If I have injuries, I'm lucky. We have some players in the academy, we do it. But cannot stay for the emotional, for the soul of the team. I could create another connection between each other that this season lost it a little bit with the players like they know week by week stay at home. You are a journalist, right? Imagine your boss say, no, you are not going to write, you're not going to write the articles. What do you say? I'm going to what I'm doing here. So the players have to be here to fight between them to play, and it has to be a right number. There's a lot of injuries, unlucky, but we have to do it.
How are you selecting those players at the moment? Because obviously you left a couple out of the cup final, and then Savinho would.
Yeah, I try to for example, Echeverri, for example, is incredible good in smaller spaces when the team defends so deep, like Southampton and Crystal Palace against Bournemouth, is more transitional team, open. Echeverri still is not ready to play this type of games. Or maybe he's ready, but I didn't see him, I don't realize. So that's why, and after that, the previous game was some players, and maybe in Sunday will be another one. So it's a headache. So yesterday I spent more than 45 minutes with 6 players. 6, not 1 or 2, 6 players were at home. So I don't like that. I don't like it.
I don't know about you guys. I'm confused.
So the squad's too big, and he's got to tell people they're not playing, and that's exhausting for him. You go out in January, and then you bring in 3 new players because you've got to...
And he had to spend 45 minutes with them yesterday. I mean, 45 minutes. They lost in the cup final, by the way. What's the excuse for that? And also, the first question asked him about, do you want a smaller squad?
Right.
And he said no. He went, I'll quit. I mean, am I missing? What am I missing?
He was talking about signings coming in, wasn't he, and the size of the squad.
He's moaning about players being injured, so when players are injured, you need a beefier squad.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're screwed.
But now everyone's fit, and he's got to deal
Now he doesn't want to leave people at home, because that's leaving people at home and you have to give them bad news. That's part of the job. I mean, he's already flagging. I mean, I've said this all along. I think the big question here, and I think he's concerned about it, is if Liverpool and Arsenal and others are strong again next year, are they and is he up for the task, up for the fight? And that interview was kind of, it was very convoluted.
No, and it's interesting when you take a look at that full screen that we put up, you look at the players that were left out, these aren't players that necessarily are guaranteed a starting place somewhere else, Stevie.
Yeah.
This isn't... you haven't got 2 great players at every position.
That's the confusing thing for me. You know, we're not talking about World Cup winners or perennial champions or that have been involved. You're talking about players that probably wouldn't be playing anyway if everybody was fit.
Yeah.
It's not a difficult conversation. Savinho hasn't played well. Rico Lewis had a good period. Kusanov's had a nightmare. And the rest of them are... And Carson's a sub-goalie who's, I think, about 57. So, I mean...
The strangest thing, by the way, why is he saying, if they do, I'll leave? Why would you say that?
So from a coach's hat, do you understand his sentiments regarding trying to keep everybody happy?
Yeah, of course you do. It's a situation that we complain about Chelsea. They had too many so-called first-team players, and so to try and mould a unit together with all the other stuff that you need, you know, the togetherness and the trust, all of those things that are not football-related on the field, it's very difficult, and we've seen that at Chelsea over the last 3 years. But as I said, to turn around and say, if they do that, I'm going to leave, that smacks of somebody who's trying to open a door for himself, to me. It doesn't make any sense.
Frank?
Yeah, I know what he was talking. I was thinking about the fact that he will never sign for Chelsea. Too many players, too complicated for him. But that's it. Well, it doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, I'm confused about these explanations. And nowadays, you need a certain amount of players, and you have to deal with them. And as a coach, you have to make sure that everybody's happy. But they sign a contract, and you have to make a choice. So you take full responsibility for the decision you're going to make, and it doesn't really matter if somebody has to stay home, another one has to stay on the bench. That's part of the football nowadays. And then if you want to win something, you need a certain amount of player, and he has this amount, and he should deal with that. And if he had too many injuries, maybe he has to check with the fitness coach, with the people who are working on that. Because I remember Arsenal, they had a problem with that, with the physio or with the doctor when I was playing, where they had too many injuries, and they were debating about that. Who is responsible for the fact that some players are injured? Are the players? Are the fitness coach? The preparation that you're having, traveling for commercials and everything, everywhere, especially in the United States? Are they already tired before starting the competition? That's the thing you have to deal as a coach. And nowadays, you have to be ready because you have thousands of people around you to make sure that you have the right amount, you have no player too much injured, and you deal with that.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing how this squad size and telling players they're not playing or they're on the bench or they're not travelling. It's utterly amazing how all of a sudden it's a problem for him when they're not winning. Mm. Did they have a small, when they were dominating English football, when they were not winning the Champions League every year, but they were the strongest team, nobody wanted to play them. And when they won it that year, when they won the league, and they had a big squad, and he was having to tell players they're on the bench, Julian Alvarez and others, or some of them weren't travelling. Was it a problem then? No. It wasn't a problem then because they were winning. It's a problem now because they're losing, and he's using it as an excuse as to why they were losing. Because they had the biggest squad in the Premier League and arguably Europe when they were dominating 5 years in a row, was it, or whatever it was. And it was not an issue back then.
Now, the Club World Cup, of course, sees some of the clubs taking it very seriously, including Real Madrid. However, they're going to be without some big stars. We knew that we learned that Endrick today will be out because of a hamstring injury. Militao, of course, still recovering. Mendy and Camavinga from their respective surgeries. We learned that another player will be having surgery as well. But after the Club World Cup, Jude Bellingham will go to the States, will compete with Real Madrid before he has the surgery that will keep him out for 3 months. I wonder what you make of this, Craig.
Same as everybody else, I think. Real Madrid are using this tournament, as they always do, to say, hey, if they win it, which there's a big doubt because we've watched them all season, to say, hey, look what we have, Club World Cup.
Yep.
What an absolute pile of garbage. An overinflated, unnecessary competition at the end of a season that, quite frankly, the South American teams are interested in it, and that's their prerogative, and Real Madrid. But this is absolutely bonkers, because when you're a player and you need an operation, you have it as soon as possible, unless you're playing a Champions League final or something and you can get through in a week or two. You have your operation, because the most important thing for you as a player in Real Madrid as a football club is not the Club World Cup, it's match day 1 of the La Liga season, where they're going to try and regain some of their gravitas and some of their class, because they lost it all last year. They were hopeless on the field, they were an embarrassment off the field, they complained about everything, and what you need is your big stars fighting fit and ready to go in match day 1, not waiting for some crappy competition and then having the surgery. What you'll have by that time, it'll be sort of mid-July. So mid-July, August, September. He could be looking at October before he's back. That's two to 2.5 months into a season. That's unacceptable.
Real Madrid will argue, though, look, the winners of this tournament get $125 million. We can use that money to reinvest in this squad and make this team even better.
What do you buy for $125 million nowadays?
Oh, you get a bit, don't you?
You'll get Rasmus Højlund and somebody else from Man United.
No, not the Manchester United rates.
All right.
To be honest, when I heard this, first of all, I thought, how stupid.
Right.
But then I thought, we were talking about, because it'll be a surprise if it's not Xavi Alonso, right? Let's just be honest. And we were talking about, is Xavi Alonso going to be able to say, right, Mbappe, you can sit today, because I don't like your attitude, so you can sit. And we're going, well, is he going to be allowed to do that? Is the big guy upstairs going to be going, hey, hold on a second, he's playing?
Yeah.
You got to think that Xavi Alonso has been speaking to Real Madrid and going, hold on a second. The most important thing for us is to win La Liga next season. So we need...
Whoa, Stevie. The way you started that sentence is the problem. You think Xavi Alonso is walking into Real Madrid and telling them what they should do? No, but they're telling him exactly what he should do.
He's got no chance then, because if Mbappe comes up with the same attitude and Vinny comes up with the same attitude and the same nonsense, then how are they going to get better?
If you're Xavi Alonso, what are you going to say? All right, I'll leave. I don't want the job. You just do it.
All I'm saying is, one of the biggest problems he's going to have is he going to have a say on who's playing and what's on the field?
No.
And it seems like straight off the bat, hasn't even got in the building yet, and the answer is you're going to do as you're told.
Yeah.
So listen, as I said, if Vinny and Mbappe have the same attitude, you don't have Bellingham at the start of the season, what chance has he got?
Frank, we of course heard from you on this yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday we had that debate also, but the fact that because I was with you and I say that's stupid to put Bellingham for the Club World Cup and not for the beginning of the La Liga and the Champions League. But Xhaka and Mark Ogden were with us, and they were saying that it doesn't really matter if he misses like 3 months in the beginning of the La Liga, because after the 3 months, Real Madrid will be first or second. Or third, maybe, but they will be in the race. And in the Champions League, they're going to be in a group phase. I don't know how it's going to be treated next season, like this season. So they're going to be there. They're going to be qualified. So they say it doesn't really matter. So therefore, they make their choices. which I kind of agree with them. Does it really matter to have Jude Bellingham in September, August, September, and October, where you know in November that you're still going to be in the race?
Well, if they'd started this season better, they might have had a chance of winning La Liga, right? Barcelona were how many points ahead? 9, 10?
Yeah, then at Christmas Real Madrid were...
But then it depends how you want to look at it. You're making a face as if well, yeah, but... Well, the truth is, had they not been so bad,
I'm making a
and
face.
that 9-point gap was 1 point, then they actually might, as bad as they were, they might end up winning it.
I don't know how you can... I really don't know how you can say it doesn't matter.
I mean,
that's a bit like saying... And obviously, he had a poor season by his standards, along with a bunch of others. But I think back to the year before. Is that like saying that tremendous start to his Real Madrid career, with all those goals on a weekly basis, match winners, two goals at the Montjuic that won the first Clásico of the season last year? Is that like saying that doesn't matter?
Yeah.
I mean, what if they're having a similar season to this season and they're 8 or 9 points off? What if Barcelona are able to tweak their finances, sign a couple of defenders or a midfield, whatever it is, and they come out the traps like what Liverpool did in the Premier League, and everybody was left in their wake? You can't just say, we have this superstar who didn't have a very good season along with the rest. We're going to play him in the Club World Cup because the first couple of months of the season...
Yeah, but don't worry, if they're not first, they'll be second.
It doesn't really matter. That's not how it works.
It's how we're promoting La Liga for the start of next season.
Well,
don't worry about the first couple of months. Only towards the end.
Join us in November when it really matters.
When it really matters. So it will be Real Betis against Chelsea in the Conference League final. Just taking a look at the 2 games that the players will have to take part in ahead of this. On Friday, Real Betis against Valencia. 48 hours later, it's Forest against Chelsea. And then on Wednesday, it's the final, Real Betis against Chelsea. Maresca's not happy.
I'm not happy, 100%. You cannot allow a team 48 hours more than the other team when you play European competition final.
So you think you should have been allowed to play on Friday?
Or they play Sunday like us. I don't know if it's from the Liga, from the Premier League, or from the UEFA. I don't know how many we are in this room, but if I ask you, it's normal to play a final where a team has 48 hours more than the other team? I think it's not normal. It's not something correct.
Frank Leboeuf.
Yeah, it's fair what he says, but I think he lives in another world. We call that the TV rights, and the last day of the Premier League is showed everywhere in the world. So everybody wants to see the ending of the who's going to finish in the first 5. And that's the tricky point. And so therefore it was impossible for the Premier League, for the FA, I don't know who takes care of that, to say, okay, Chelsea, you play on Friday, and it doesn't really matter, we're going to sort it out. I think it's dealt before, and there is nothing to do. And if you are in the Premier League, you know that. And sometimes the Premier League cannot help you out. And it's been shown many, many times. Maybe La Liga is possible, and they do that. I know that in League One it's possible. They adjust to according to the game you have in Europe. I'm pretty sure for Paris Saint-Germain it's going to be the case. Well, it's going to be already finished, but it's been the case in the Champions League. They can sort out your problems and make sure you rest enough. In the Premier League, it's impossible.
La Liga and the Bundesliga always do a better job of accommodating their sides. The problem is here, it's the last game of the season and they always play it at the same time because of the jeopardy that's not really there. Because nobody gives a hoot.
The top 5 jeopardy,
really about the
Craig.
Premier League. Maybe Villa, maybe Villa, maybe Chelsea. And then there's the other side of the scenario here. I'm not degrading it a lot, but it's the UEFA Conference Final. Mm-hmm. It's not the Champions League final. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Both teams. In all fairness, I would bet you, and I haven't looked back in this because the conference is not very high up in anybody's agenda, certainly not in this show. I would imagine Real Betis have played slightly better teams on their way through.
They beat Fiorentina in the last round.
Chelsea have had the ability in this competition to play the Resis, the second string.
Yeah.
And so
here's the question to you, Stevie. As a coach, why are you airing this grievance publicly when you know it's going to change absolutely nothing?
I've no idea. It's just another
Excuses.
manager coming in.
Yeah, but why
coming
make
into
excuses?
Premier League
Yeah.
and complaining
In
about.
case Betis beat them in his
games
Well,
in Europe.
I told
mean,
you before.
told you, the Premier League have not accommodated us. We've got 40 hours of La Liga. They played on Friday.
Yeah, well...
Why don't Betis put the hand up? Phone Manuel Pellegrini and said, "You want to play Sunday?"
It's an automatic thing. You're covering your
Dan,
back.
you don't know that playing the victim nowadays is very useful. You know, when you have a problem, you play the victim. Nowadays, in any matters, it works very well.
Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. We've got Craig and Stevie here in the studio. Frank, for those who maybe haven't watched the show for a while, who aren't familiar with that noise, just remind us what that is that we hear in the background in your studio.
Okay, I have a kind of electrical wire going around the house because my roof is on, let's say, thatched roof?
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes.
Is that what you say? Yeah, thatched roof. So you have to avoid birds or rodents to go below the thatched roof. So you put that, it scares them, doesn't kill them, because I know what you're going to say.
No, I didn't say they're going to kill them.
It only scares them. Yeah, it scares them and they go away. But I'm sorry, it makes a little bit of a noise. I don't hear it. It's funny, but I don't hear any noise.
How can you not hear that noise?
Why doesn't he put some of that thatch on the top of his head? Go up to your roof, get some of that thatch, put it on your head.
Like bring Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz.
Bring some for me as well, Frank. A little bit darker.
Okay, I will.
You're here next week, aren't you, Frank? That'd be exciting for us.
Yeah, where are you going?
Yes, what a treat for you, Dan. I'm gonna be there next week, all week long. You're gonna be eating at the restaurant for free.
Wow.
Every night.
I'm going to get my best shorts out. Most definitely.
No, don't be ordering the most expensive steak.
Well, no, you did that with Macca and then made Macca pay.
No, we were all going to share, and then Macca paid. He's the only man I know that offered to pay and then complained about the price of the steak.
Craig, yesterday, Augie suggested that Bruno Fernandes deserves a shout for Premier League Player of the Year. Please take a moment to lambast him.
I think Augie is somewhat trying to infiltrate his way back into some good books. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has been their best player.
Yes, but that's difficult.
Right. That's my point. And he's done some good things, but again today in this game today, he spent an awful lot of time whinging and moaning at the referee.
Yes.
He should not be in the Premier League Team of the Year. I mean, he's winning the Man United Player of the Year by a country mile.
Who did you have, Stevie? You were quite invested in this during the game.
You got Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Or you got Cunha at Wolves. Both of them have got better stats than him in the Premier League as well. It's just impossible that he doesn't stand out because the rest of the team he's playing in are so poor.
Is this the worst final you've ever watched? You commentated on a really bad final, didn't you?
World Cup final.
2010. That's Spain, Germany. Oh, Spain-Holland final.
Spain-Holland. I can barely remember any chances. I think. Who was the guy? Ian Robin was right through on goal, missed a chance. There was a Puyol challenge.
De Jong.
De Jong
with a high boot. Howard Webb bottled it.
That was about the most. It was a terrible.
The final that we had wasn't great either. The Spurs-Liverpool final.
No.
Because once Liverpool got that penalty early, it was just like, oh.
I mean, I know it's not on the same level, but the worst final I ever saw, I was involved in, the Revs against LA Galaxy at Gillette Stadium.
Oh.
It was in October.
I don't think that's resonating.
It was in October. It was a horrible win.
MLS Cup final?
MLS Cup final. The field was dry as a bone.
Oh.
There wasn't a lot of grass on it.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, it was awful.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And you lost?
And we lost. Just to
keep talking?
Just to put that tin hat on it, we lost as well.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Stevie.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be a big surprise, would it? A game
Frank?
Yeah, I remember that World Cup final in 1990 with Germany when that was a penalty. They won. I think it was. He just passed away. I forgot the left back.
Was
with his, and that was awful. Was it against Argentina? Yes, I think it was against Argentina. That was awful.
94 as well. That was 0-0. That was awful. Oh dear.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
98, that's no one remembers that either.
Another one I remember.
The worst.
The MLS Cup final.
New England against.
I remember
how dry that pitch was.
Oh, it was dry. Oh, it was just awful.
So dry.
The wind.
The Galaxy. Oh, jeez.
Swirling wind.
It was awful.
Last week, Jan said he would gladly drive the bus for Spurs' parade right past the Emirates Stadium to celebrate in front of Arsenal fans. I didn't know Jan was so pro-Spurs.
I know, yeah.
Would
Maybe he's so against Arsenal.
Oh, would Stevie join him since it would be a celebration of United losing?
If somebody picked me up and took me home again, yeah.
Yeah, be up on that bus?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, lovely, that'd be nice.
Why would he drive a bus?
So Jim Radcliffe already stated that Manchester United will run out of money in November. How can they possibly rebuild with no Champions League and limited resources?
Well, they're trying to get government money to rebuild, aren't they?
Yes, indeed.
Other things, but...
Oggy was on yesterday, he explained it all quite well.
Honestly, is that over-egging the pudding? They're going to run out of money in November. They're not.
Oh, no, of course they're not.
They're not.
No. Who won the better first trophy, Kane or Son? Frank, what would you prefer, the Bundesliga title or the Europa League title?
No, the Bundesliga title. I mean, especially according to the season they each had, you know, where Son was injured, they finished 17th in the league and had that Europa League final by many chances. Where Kane was, you know, I think did he finish top scorer as well? I think this season again, and yeah, no, I think the best for me first trophy is the Kane one. That's amazing. Bundesliga is great.
What would you prefer, Stevie?
Oh, Kane.
Yep.
I know it's not even close.
No? No. Final question. What was your favourite subject in school?
PE.
PE.
Yes, PE obviously is a given.
Yeah.
Apart from that, Stevie?
Nothing.
Anything you enjoyed?
No.
Yeah, the fact I enjoyed the bell ringing.
No.
Right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, normally wasn't there, but that point.
You have a penchant for history.
What?
A penchant? Yeah, doesn't he? Frank, he has a penchant for... You quite like history.
Sorry?
You watch a history documentary?
Oh, yeah, but I just...
Now?
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Mind you, the old days.
I like the old World War
now
II
when
in
kids-
colour. It's fantastic. I was watching it yesterday.
It's amazing kids it wouldn't happen now. What age did we used to leave school at? If you were not...
16.
Yeah.
I left when I was 15.
Mentally, when you were checked out.
Oh, I was never in. You got to be in to be out.
I left when I was 15.
Right.
I got caught one day bunking off. What do you call it over here?
I can't remember.
I wasn't that smart, obviously.
Skipping school.
Skipping school. I went home and I was in the house. My mum came home from work. I knew she was coming home from work, so I left the house 20 minutes before she came home from work.
Okay.
But I'd had a cup of tea.
Oh, so the kettle was...
And she didn't have to be Inspector Clouseau to figure out that somebody had boiled a kettle.
Nice.
And I got done.
Did you play hooky much, Frank, at school?
Hockey? No.
No, not hockey.
That's not
Hooky.
a sport for us.
Hooky.
Did you skip school?
Skipping.
What do you mean, skipping? Skipping school? No, I never missed 1 hour of school. I was very, very, professional. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So how come
Craig.
you're the way you are now?
So what was your favourite subject, Frank?
Geography and French history.
There you are.
Oh.
Love this, eh? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
There we go.
Must have been a right barrel of laughs, Frank, when he was a
Teacher's
kid.
pet.
Teacher's pet because he liked the subject.
Anybody that stuck in at school,
Yes.
teacher's pet.
Yeah, there we go.
SWAT.
That's it. That brings us to the end of today's show. I have no idea what's happening tomorrow. What do you think, Stevie?
Rain.
I don't know, but
It's going to
I'm
rain.
It's going to rain a
It's
lot.
going to rain tomorrow, Stevie.
And
Okay.
Out with the dog.
I need to bring an umbrella with me
I
tomorrow.
think you will, yeah, most. And a change of clothes.